Those words escaped my son's mouth as casually as a weather observation, as if he hadn't just driven a dagger straight through my heart. And the cruelest part wasn't the words themselves. It was watching my daughter-in-law, Jessica, smile triumphantly as she tucked my pension check into her designer purse. My pension, my money, my house. My name is Linda. I'm 51 years old, and what I'm about to share is a story of how my own son tried to evict me from my home, never suspecting that the house was never legally his to begin with. It all began on a crisp Sunday in October. Ryan appeared at my doorstep with 2 oversized suitcases and a woman balancing precariously on stilettos. Jessica, 28 years old, crimson nails, and a smile that could sell anything. "Mom, it's only temporary," my son assured me, dropping the luggage unceremoniously in my living room. "Just a couple of months while we save up for our own place." I opened my door. I opened my refrigerator. I opened my entire life to them. "This is your home, Ryan. It always has been." Ryan embraced me warmly. Jessica air-kissed both my cheeks and called me the sweetest mother-in-law. I should have recognized the warning signs from that very first day. The initial weeks felt strange, disorienting. Jessica rearranged my furniture to create what she called a more modern aesthetic. She packed away my wedding photograph because the frame was hopelessly outdated. She discarded my floral curtains because nobody uses those anymore, Linda. I remained silent. You don't create conflict in your own home, do you? Ryan worked increasingly late hours, or so he claimed, leaving me alone with Jessica during the afternoons. She would commandeer my living room, her feet propped disrespectfully on my coffee table, eating from my dishes and leaving them unwashed. "Linda, could you bring me some water?" she'd request without even glancing up from her screen. And I would comply, because she was my daughter-in-law, my son's chosen partner. But something deep inside me began tightening, knotting itself into anxiety. One afternoon, I discovered my memory box open on my bed. The precious letters my mother had written before her death were scattered carelessly across the bedspread. "Oh, Linda, I'm so sorry," Jessica said when I confronted her. I was searching for somewhere to store my shoes and assumed that box was empty. Empty. 30 years of irreplaceable memories. Empty to her. The months crawled by, and gradually my house stopped carrying the warm scent of cinnamon and coffee. Now it reeked of expensive perfume and something darker, displacement, a silent occupation. I continued cooking, cleaning, and paying all the utility bills. Electricity, water, gas. Ryan stopped asking how I was doing. Jessica abandoned even the pretense of politeness. Then came that Tuesday in April, a date permanently seared into my memory. I had visited the bank that morning, needing to withdraw money for my blood pressure medication. But when I attempted to use my card, the ATM displayed insufficient funds. "There must be some mistake," I told the bank teller. There was no mistake. I returned home with my stomach twisted in knots. I opened the door to find Jessica sitting at my dining room table with a stack of cash and my debit card in her perfectly manicured hand. My entire pension, withdrawn without permission. "Jessica," I said, my voice calm, and I felt, "What have you done?" She didn't even flinch. "I withdrew this month's money, Linda. We need to have a conversation." Ryan emerged from the kitchen, beer in hand. My son. The boy I had cradled in my arms. The one who had wept on my lap when his father abandoned us. The one who had sworn he would always protect me. "Mom, sit down," he commanded. I sat. My heart hammered so violently I thought it might burst through my ribcage. "Look, Mom," Ryan began, his voice transformed, hard, cold, unfamiliar. "Jessica and I have been talking. We've been living here for 6 months, and you haven't wanted to discuss finances." "What finances, Ryan? This is your home. It always was." Jessica released a dry, humorless laugh. "Linda, let's be realistic. This house has 3 bedrooms, a spacious living room, a large kitchen. We occupy space here. We consume electricity, water, gas. Someone has to cover those expenses." I looked at my son, waiting for him to intervene, to remember who I was. But Ryan merely took a long drink of his beer and nodded in agreement. "It's only fair, Mom. You need to contribute if you're going to live here with us. Live here with them. In the house I had purchased with my own sacrifice. In the house where I had raised this ungrateful son. So we decided, Jessica continued, stuffing the cash into her counterfeit Louis Vuitton bag, that your pension will cover the household expenses. Consider it your rent for living here. It's completely reasonable. The silence that followed was suffocating. And if I disagree? I asked quietly. Ryan slammed his beer bottle on the table. He looked directly into my eyes and spoke those words that still burn like acid in my memory. If you don't like it, you can leave. No one is forcing you to stay here. Jessica smiled, a smile of conquest, of absolute victory. I simply sat there, staring at this man I no longer recognized as my son. And then, for the first time in 6 months, I smiled too. I stood slowly, deliberately. I walked to my bedroom without uttering a single word. Behind me, I could hear them laughing in the living room. You finally asserted yourself, Jessica praised. It was necessary, Ryan replied. It's time she understood how things really are. I opened my dresser drawer and retrieved a small, rusted key hanging from a delicate chain. That key had been hidden there for 25 years, ever since the day I signed those papers. Ever since the day I made the hardest decision of my life. A decision I never imagined I would need to invoke. I slipped the key into my pocket, took a deep breath, and returned to the living room. They were still laughing, still celebrating, and I was still smiling. Because there are things sons don't know, secrets that mothers keep buried for years, hoping they'll never need to reveal them. But on that cursed Tuesday in April, I understood that silence can make you complicit in your own humiliation. And I was finished being complicit. The key felt heavy in my pocket, like a promise of justice. Sometimes we trust the wrong people. Have you ever been devastated by someone you loved? Before I continue, you need to understand who I was, who Linda was before I became the inconvenient mother-in-law. I was 23 when I met Greg. He worked at his father's hardware store, and I sold homemade pastries at the local farmer's market. It was 1997, and the world seemed simpler then. Greg had large, capable hands and an easy laugh. He won my heart with sweet words and promises of building a home together. You'll see, Linda, he'd tell me during our Sunday walks through the park. We're going to have a house with a yard, a place where our children can run around barefoot. We married in February 1998. Ryan was born a year later. Initially, we lived in a cramped apartment near the bus station. 2 tiny rooms, a shared bathroom. Walls so thin we could hear the neighbors' arguments. But it was ours and we were happy. Greg worked 12-hour days. I cared for Ryan. In the afternoons, I made tortillas to sell in the neighborhood. $2 per dozen. We saved every penny for a down payment on a house. Ryan was a beautiful, chubby baby with rosy cheeks who laughed at everything. He loved sitting in the kitchen while I kneaded dough, asking me to make him miniature tortillas, just like the real ones, Mommy. When I grow up, my son would tell me with those enormous eyes, I'm going to buy you a beautiful house with a garden so you can plant roses. I'd kiss his forehead and tell him we were already rich because we had each other. But life has cruel ways of teaching you that happiness is fragile. Ryan was 5 when Greg started coming home late, smelling of perfume that wasn't mine, offering increasingly absurd excuses. I had to help a customer. The car broke down. I was just talking with the guys. I kept silent. You stay quiet about many things when you have a young child and a paycheck that barely covers expenses. Until one Saturday morning, while Ryan was playing with his toy cars, Greg packed a bag and announced, I met someone else, Linda. I'm sorry. Just like that. No drama. Like someone canceling a dental appointment. And Ryan, I asked. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I simply asked about our son. I'll send money, Greg lied, but I need to restart my life. He left that same day. Ryan asked for his father for weeks. I told him Daddy was working far away, that he'd return soon. He never came back. The money he promised never arrived. The phone calls became less frequent, then stopped entirely. Greg rebuilt his life with a younger woman in Austin. They had 2 daughters. Ryan ceased to exist for him. and I was left alone with a 5-year-old boy and the income from selling tortillas. But here's the part my son never knew. 2 years after Greg abandoned us, Mr. Anderson, the owner of the department store where I had started working, called me into his office. "Linda," he said, "I've been observing you. You're hard-working, honest, responsible. I have a proposal." Mr. Anderson had no children. His wife had died young. He lived alone in a large house in the Willow Creek neighborhood. A house that felt too spacious, too quiet for one person. "I need someone trustworthy," he explained. "Someone to care for the house when I'm traveling, to keep it alive and maintained." He offered me an arrangement. If I worked for him for 25 years, both in the store and maintaining the house when he traveled, at the end of that period, the house would become mine. "But there's one condition," he said. "Nobody can know. Not your family, not your son. This stays between you, me, and the legal papers we're going to sign with my attorney." I was 28 years old. I had a 7-year-old son. I had no visible future. I signed those papers on a Tuesday in November 2001. For 25 years, I cared for that house as if it were mine, because I knew that one day it would be. I watered the plants, polished the hardwood floors, kept the windows spotless so sunlight could stream through. Ryan grew up within those walls, never knowing the truth. He thought Mr. Anderson allowed us to live there out of pity, out of charity. I never told him otherwise. Why didn't I tell him? Because I was terrified. Terrified something would go wrong. Terrified Mr. Anderson would change his mind. Terrified of giving my son hope that might be shattered like all his father's broken promises. Mr. Anderson passed away 3 years ago. On the day of his funeral, his attorney handed me the deed. The house was mine. Legally, completely, irrevocably mine. I cried that day. Cried for the good man who had given me what my husband never could. Cried for the 25 years of silent work. Cried with overwhelming relief. But I still didn't tell Ryan. He simply assumed I had inherited the house from Mr. Anderson for being a loyal employee. I allowed him to believe it. Why complicate things? My son moved out on his own at 23. He got a job at a logistics company. I remained in my house, tending my roses, drinking my cinnamon coffee each morning, living the peace I had earned. Until that Sunday in October when Ryan knocked on my door with suitcases and a woman in red heels. That night in the kitchen, with my tea growing cold in my hands, I remembered everything. I remembered the 23-year-old girl selling pastries at the market. I remembered the single mother kneading dough to feed her son. I remembered the 25 years of silent labor. I remembered every dollar saved, every sacrifice made, every sleepless night wondering if Ryan would have enough for school. And I remembered the promise I made myself the day I received that deed. No one will ever take away what it took me a lifetime to earn. No one, not even my own son. I rose from the table, washed my cup, and put it away. I turned off the kitchen lights. Tomorrow, I would do what needed to be done. Tomorrow, I would begin reclaiming my dignity. The next morning, I woke before dawn. There's a particular kind of pain that prevents sleep. The kind that keeps you staring at the ceiling, wondering where everything went so terribly wrong. I got up, put on my blue robe, the one Ryan had given me years ago when he still called me Mommy, and went to the kitchen to make coffee. The house was silent, but it was a different silence than before. Previously, it had been peaceful. Now it was a cold war. I prepared water for coffee and took out the cinnamon blend I always enjoyed on Wednesdays. Cinnamon and brown sugar, the aroma that reminded me of my mother, of Sundays in her kitchen when life was simpler. I heard footsteps. Ryan appeared, yawning, still in his pajamas. His hair was disheveled, and he had that sleepy-eyed look that reminded me of when he was 10 years old. "Morning, Mom," he mumbled, settling at the table. For a second, just one fleeting second, I thought perhaps yesterday had been a nightmare, that those words had never been spoken, that my son was still truly my son. "Good morning, sweetheart," I said. "Would you like some coffee?" "Yeah, please." I poured him a cup. He held it with both hands, just as he had since childhood. He took a long sip and sighed contentedly. "This is really good," he said. "Thanks." We sat in silence. I waited. I waited for him to say something, to apologize, to explain that he was stressed, that Jessica had pressured him, that he didn't mean to hurt me. But Ryan simply drank his coffee and stared out the window. Son, I began carefully. About yesterday. He held up his hand like stopping traffic. Mom, we already discussed it. There's nothing more to talk about. But, Ryan, that's my pension. It's all I have. He set the cup down harder than necessary. And this is the house where we all live. Mom, what do you expect? For Jessica and me to pay for everything while you save your money? Those words hit me like ice water. I pay the electricity, I said softly. I pay the water. I pay the gas. I buy the groceries. That was before, Mom, when you lived alone. Now there are 3 of us. The expenses have increased. Then why didn't you tell me? Why did you take my card? Ryan shot up from his chair, which scraped loudly against the floor. Nobody stole anything. Jessica took the money because you wouldn't cooperate. Because every time we tried to discuss it, you changed the subject. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Cooperate in my own house? Ryan, this house is mine, I said, my voice trembling. I earned it. I maintained it all these years. You were living in your own apartment, and now you come here and tell me I have to pay to stay in my own home. He looked at me with an expression I had never seen before, cold, distant, as if I were an annoying stranger. Mom, Mr. Anderson loaned you this house. It was charity. It's not like you actually bought it. That word pierced me like a nail. Charity. My son believed everything I had came from pity, from the compassion of a lonely old man, not from work, not from effort, not from 25 years of lifting boxes, cleaning floors, and maintaining a house that wasn't mine, until it was. Charity. Ryan, I tried again, but he was already walking toward the door. I have to get ready for work. And you should think about finding a job, too. You're not that old. You can't just sit at home all day. He left. I stood there in the kitchen with the coffee pot, still warm, and my heart shattered into pieces. When exactly had my son transformed into this person? I tried to remember, searching my memory for any sign, any signal indicating when he started to change. And then I saw it clearly. Jessica. Ever since her arrival, Ryan had started viewing me differently. He used to call 3 times a week just to say hello. He'd come for dinner every Sunday and help me in the garden. He'd ask about my medication, my blood pressure, whether I needed anything. But after Jessica, the calls stopped. The visits became obligations. The conversations turned awkward. I remembered an afternoon 2 months after they'd moved in. I was walking past their room with clean laundry when I overheard voices. Ryan, your mom still treats you like a child. You're 32 years old. It's time you establish some boundaries. That's just how she is, Jess. She's always been overprotective. She's not protective. She's controlling. Can't you see? She makes you feel guilty about everything. Oh, son, don't worry about me. Oh, son, I'll take care of it. She's manipulating you. I had kept walking that day. I didn't want to hear more. I thought it was just typical couple friction, normal adjustments. But it wasn't friction. It was poison, drop by drop, word by word. Jessica had been poisoning him against me for months. I drank my cold coffee in one gulp. It didn't taste like cinnamon anymore. It tasted like ash. I went to my room and opened the drawer with the key again. I held it in my hand like a weapon, because that's what it was, the last offense of a mother losing her son. But it wasn't time yet. I still held a small hope that Ryan would snap out of it, that he would see what was happening, that he would remember who I was. I put the key away again. I would wait just a little longer. That afternoon, when I returned from the market with groceries, paid for with a little cash I had left after Jessica had emptied my account, I found the living room rearranged. My new curtains, the ones I had just hung last week, were thrown carelessly on the sofa. Jessica was measuring the window with a tape measure. "Oh, Linda, good, you're here," she said, without even looking at me. "I'm going to buy some modern curtains. These ones will look like something from a grandmother's house." Like a grandmother's house. I was 51 years old. "Jessica," I bought those curtains last week. They cost me $50. She shrugged dismissively. Well, I'll buy better ones. Don't worry, you'll love them. She didn't ask. She didn't consult me. She was simply doing it, in my house, with my money, or the money she now considered theirs. Where's Ryan? I asked. Out with friends. He'll be late. So I was alone with her in my own home, watching her systematically dismantle everything I had built. That night, while I ate some refried beans and tortillas alone in the kitchen, I heard Jessica laughing from the living room. She was on her phone. Yeah, girl, almost there. We've got her exactly where we want her. She's paying for everything without a fight. No, she's not going to leave. Where would she go? She has nothing. Just this house that was given to her out of pity. Give a couple more months, and we'll be able to... I stood up silently and went to my room. I didn't sleep that night because I understood something terrible. This wasn't just contempt. This was a calculated plan. Friday morning, Ryan left early for work. Jessica stayed home. She barely left the house anymore. She'd remain in her pajamas until noon, watching television shows, eating cold food directly from my pots without even heating it. I was in the backyard watering my roses when she came outside. Linda, I need to discuss something with you. I turned. Jessica had a folder in her hands, a blue one I hadn't seen before. What is it? I said, my voice firmer than I felt. She sat in the iron chair my mother had given me years ago. She crossed her legs and opened the folder with calculated, deliberate movements. Look, I've been running the numbers, she began, and this situation isn't sustainable. What situation? The house expenses, Linda. Your pension isn't sufficient. I felt my chest tighten. Jessica, my pension has always been enough. I've lived here for over 20 years and never lacked for anything. She smiled, that smile that set my teeth on edge. Sure, when you lived alone. But now there are 3 of us. Electricity uses up, water is up, groceries, gas, everything has increased. She pulled papers from a folder. Receipts, numbers circled in red marker. Look, here's the electricity bill, $700. Water, $200. Gas, $150. Groceries for the month, approximately $1,000. And that's not counting extras. That's $2,500. She was claiming the expenses totaled $2,500 a month. My pension was exactly $2,500. Jessica, those numbers can't be accurate. The electricity bill has never exceeded $250. She pushed the papers toward me. Well, it is now. Check for yourself. I took the bills with trembling hands, and then I saw it. The electricity bill had the correct address, but the usage was absurd. It listed appliances I didn't own, a high-capacity front-load washer, a dryer, 2 air conditioning units. I didn't have a dryer. I didn't have air conditioners. This isn't from this house. I said firmly, yes, it is, Linda. We had them installed last month. Didn't you notice? I froze. You installed air conditioners without asking me? Ryan and I decided it was too hot. It was necessary. And who paid for it? Jessica closed the folder slowly. We put it on credit, a loan we now have to pay off monthly. That's why we need you to contribute more. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Jessica, you can't just make those decisions in my house without consulting me. She stood up. Her expression transformed. The smile vanished. Look, Linda, let's lay our cards on the table. I know this house was given to you. I know you didn't pay a single penny for it. Mr. Anderson left it to you out of pity because you were his employee. But that doesn't mean it's truly yours. It just means you got lucky. Every word was a slap across my face. And now Ryan and I are here, she continued. We're family. We're your only family. Or do you have someone else? Silence. Exactly, she said. You don't have anyone. So you can keep fighting about your electricity bills and your ugly curtains, or you can accept that things have changed, that you're not alone anymore, that now you have to share. She turned and went inside, leaving me standing there with the falsified bills in my hands. That night, when Ryan got home, I was waiting for him. Son, we need to talk. He sighed like I was a whining child. What now, Mom? Jessica showed me some bills. She said the expenses have increased dramatically, that you installed air conditioners and a dryer without telling me. Ryan loosened his tie and dropped onto the sofa. Yeah, Mom, we needed them. What's the problem? The problem is I didn't authorize those expenses. The problem is that loan isn't mine. The problem is this is my house. He looked at me with that new expression I hated, pure annoyance. Mom, please, let's not start this again. Jessica is right. It's time for you to accept that you don't live alone anymore. We're a family and families share. But Ryan, but nothing, Mom. I'm exhausted. I had a long day. Can we save the drama for another time? He stood up and went to his room without eating dinner. I simply sat there on the sofa I had purchased 10 years ago, in the living room I had painted with my own hands, in the house that was mine. And for the first time in my life, I felt like an intruder. The next few days were worse. Jessica started treating me like I was the guest, the intruder. Linda, could you wash this? She'd ask, tossing her dirty clothes at me. Linda, we're out of dish soap. Go buy some. Linda, don't make so much noise in the morning. Ryan needs to sleep. And I obeyed. Why? Why did I allow her to treat me this way? Because I was terrified. Terrified of losing my son forever. Terrified of being completely alone. Terrified that if I pushed too hard, they would leave and I would never see Ryan again. So I kept silent. I bowed my head. I did what they asked. I became the maid in my own home. One afternoon, while I was cleaning their bathroom, which they never cleaned, I found a shoebox under the sink. I opened it. Inside were papers. Many papers. Credit applications, all in my name. 3 credit cards, all in my name. And a notary document with my signature. But I hadn't signed anything. I sat on the cold bathroom floor, my hands shaking. The signature was good, very good, but it wasn't mine. They had forged it. I heard footsteps. I quickly returned everything to the box and shoved it back under the sink. I walked out of the bathroom. Jessica was in the hallway, watching me. What were you doing in there so long, Linda? Cleaning, I said. It was very dirty. She stared at me for a long, eternal second. Then she smiled. Thanks, Linda. You're a sweetheart. That night, I couldn't close my eyes, because now I knew everything. They didn't just want my pension. They wanted my house, and they were willing to steal it. The next few days were a silent nightmare. I walked in my own house like a thief, afraid to make noise, afraid to look too closely, afraid that Jessica would notice that I knew. Because now I knew. I knew they had forged my signature. I knew they had open credit lines in my name. I knew this was all a carefully designed plan to take the only thing I had. But I needed more proof. I needed to understand how deep the deception went. Tuesday morning, Ryan left for work, and Jessica finally left to go to the salon. I had the house to myself for 2 hours. 2 hours to search. I went straight to their room, my old guest room, which now smelled like Jessica's sickly sweet perfume. The walls I had painted a soft yellow were now covered with photographs of 2 of them, as if this house was theirs, as if I was the one who didn't belong. I opened the closet. Expensive clothes, far too expensive for what Ryan earned. Designer shoes, handbags that cost more than my pension for 3 months. Where was this money coming from? I checked the drawers. Makeup, jewelry, nothing unusual, until I reached the last drawer of the nightstand. There it was, another folder. This one was black. I took it out and opened it on the bed. My God, bank statements. 3 different accounts. All in my name, all with huge negative balances. 1 credit card with a $9,000 debt, another with $6,000, a third with $5,000, over $20,000 in debt in my name. I kept digging. More papers. A personal loan for $15,000, approved, deposited into an account that wasn't mine. Another loan for $10,000, also approved. And at the bottom of the folder, the worst discovery of all, a mortgage application for the house. My house. The application was in process. Date of request, 2 weeks ago. Amount requested, $150,000. There was a handwritten note from Jessica. When the loan comes through, we pay everything off and move to Miami Beach. She can't do anything without the original papers. We'll make her believe it's for renovations and sign everything with Ryan's cousin at the notary's office. I felt the floor open up beneath me. Ryan's cousin Fred, the one who worked at a notary's office, the one my sister had always said was shady. They were going to use his connections to forge documents, to mortgage my house, to take the money, to leave, and leave me with the debts, with a mortgage, with nothing. I sat on the bed because my legs wouldn't hold me. How long had they been planning this? Since before they knocked on my door that Sunday in October? I heard a car pull up. My heart leaped. I shoved everything back in a folder, returned it to the drawer exactly as I'd found it, closed the nightstand, and got out of the room. I made it to the kitchen just as the front door opened. It was Jessica. She walked in carrying bags from an expensive department store. More clothes, more shoes, more things bought with money that wasn't hers. With my money, with my credit, with my name. "Oh, Linda, good, you're here," she said, dropping the bags on the sofa. "I need you to do me a favor." I just looked at her, trying to control my breathing, trying not to scream what I had just discovered. I have to go to a notary's office tomorrow to sign some papers. It's just some paperwork for Ryan's job. I need you to come with me as a witness. There it was, the moment they had been preparing. They were going to make me sign the mortgage, right in front of me, making me believe it was for his job. What kind of papers? I asked. My voice sounded calmer than I expected. "Oh, I don't know. Something about taxes. You know how boring that stuff is. Just routine paperwork. But they need a family member to be present." A lie. It was all a lie. "What time?" I asked. 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. At the notary on Main Street, number 33. Fred's office. "Okay," I said. "I'll be there." Jessica smiled, that triumphant smile I knew so well. "Thanks, Linda. I knew we could count on you. You're the best." She went to her room with her shopping bags. I heard her laughing, talking on her phone. "Yeah, girl, everything gets signed tomorrow. She doesn't suspect a thing. I told you it was easy. Just a stupid old woman who does whatever you ask. A stupid old woman." I was 51 years old, and I was not stupid. That night, when Ryan got home, he was in a surprisingly good mood, a rare occurrence lately. "Mom, did Jess tell you about the notary's office tomorrow?" "Yes, son, she did." "Perfect. It's important that you go. Don't miss it, okay?" He looked me in the eyes, and for a second, just one fleeting second, I saw something. Guilt? Doubt? Remorse? But it vanished instantly. "I won't miss it," I said. He nodded and went to eat dinner. I remained in the living room, staring out the window. The night was dark, starless. I went to my room. I opened the drawer and took out the rusted key. This time, I didn't put back. I placed the chain around my neck. I felt it cold against my skin. Tomorrow, they thought I would sign their papers, that I would hand over my house, that I would let them steal everything I had worked for. But I had a plan, too, a plan I had been saving since the day I received the original deed, a plan I never thought I'd have to use against my own son. I opened my closet and pulled out an old shoebox. Inside, wrapped in plastic, were the original documents for the house. The deed in my name, signed, sealed, completely legal, and one other document, a will Mr. Anderson had me sign years ago, stating that the house was payment for 25 years of service. Not an inheritance, not a gift, but a legal payment, with his signature, with witnesses, all in proper order. And there was a letter written by Mr. Anderson 2 months before he died. "Linda, if anyone ever tries to take this house from you, use this letter. In it, I explained that you were more than my employee. You were my friend, my family. And this house is yours by right, not by charity. Don't let anyone take what you earned with your work and your dignity. Signed, Alfonso Anderson." Tears rolled down my cheeks as I read that letter for the 10th time. Mr. Anderson had known. Somehow, he had known that one day I would need protection, even from my own blood. I placed the documents in my purse. I would take them with me tomorrow. And when the time came to sign at that corrupt notary's office, I would pull out my own papers. And I would show my son and that woman that Linda was nobody's fool, that mothers know how to fight back, even when it breaks their own hearts. Wednesday morning dawned gray and overcast. I hadn't slept. I had sat on my bed all night with my purse on my lap, the document inside representing my only defense. At 7 in the morning, I heard movement. Jessica and Ryan were up. I heard them talking quietly in the kitchen, nervous laughter, the sound of the coffee pot. I got up, showered, and put on my navy blue dress, the one I wore for important occasions. I combed my hair carefully. I put on the pearl earrings my mother